Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Uh, Bonjour, hello, namaste everyone. I, Ashok Khanduri, as the founder of this Indo-Francophone collective called Sangam of français, I welcome you all at this special session. I'll request everyone to please keep their mics shut so that we don't feel any interruption. Thank you. So, I welcome you all at this special session by Sangam of Français, which is an Indo-Francophone collective dedicated to Indo-French linguistic exchange, cultural appreciation, and upskilling the French language. We, as a growing Indo-Francophone collective, bring together learners, educators, and cultural enthusiasts. Apart from conducting classes for different exams like DELF or DALF, TCF, and TEF, we are also involved in conducting workshops on cinema, literature, translation, interpretation, and also cultural events in collaboration with experts from India and abroad. You can always follow our journey on Instagram, LinkedIn, and now on YouTube as well. And today's session is a part of our career series, and we are thrilled to be joined by an exceptional guest, Dr. Priti Bhatia. It's my honor as a founder of this collective to welcome Dr. Priti Bhatia today with us. She is an internationally acclaimed expert in translation and primarily interpretation. With more than 40 years of experience, she specializes in scientific and technical translations as well as conference interpretation as well. Dr. Bhatia has done her MPhil from JNU, followed by her PhD from University of Mumbai, and also she has trained at the prestigious ESIT Paris for a year, which is École supérieure d'interprètes et de traducteurs. She has interpreted for former President Gyani Jail Singh, ministers from India and abroad, and dignitaries in the French-speaking countries. She also has worked with the UN affiliated conferences and has taught at Punjab University, at University of Mumbai, and IGNOU. Ma'am, we are truly honored to have you with us today. Thanks a lot for accepting our invitation, ma'am.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for your kind words. And I look forward to hopefully telling you a couple of things which I think you would be very interested in knowing.
Well, before I start, I'll quickly make you aware of the format. We'll have a series of questions for Dr. Priti Bhatia. She will answer all of them, and it will be followed by even your questions. So at the end of all my questions, if you have any question, you can always open your mic and share the question directly to Dr. Priti Bhatia, ma'am, and she will happily answer. Keeping in mind the timeline of the event, I'll quickly start with a series of questions. So, ma'am, our first question is that as language experts in India, we normally think of interpretation as some sort of oral translation. But I would want to know for you, how would you define interpretation? How is it different from just oral translation, especially for students who are new to the field?
Very interesting question, Ashok. What really is translation? What is its objective? Its objective, more than just translating, is to convey the message of the speaker in a language which is understood by the listeners. Obviously, when we say this, we imply that the listeners cannot understand the language in which the speaker speaks. So, if a speaker is trying to say something, that speaker wants to convey whatever he or she is trying to say. Similarly, when the listeners listen, they want to hear everything. I mean, let me give you an example. Okay, I'm speaking. I want to convey a message to you. Do you not think that I would like to convey 100% of that message, no matter whether you understand the language I'm speaking in or not? And as a listener, please think for a minute. Would you not like to hear everything I say? Or would you think a summary is good enough? And if a summary is good enough, do you really think that you can trust the fact that what you're listening to, if it is a summary, in a different language, actually gives you the summary of the salient points of what I'm trying to say. So, number one question I want all of you to think of right now is it enough to get a summary? Number two, do you not want to hear everything I say? Now, obviously, the interpreter, in a way, it is a type of translation, but it involves a lot more than that. It involves comprehension on the part of the translation. It involves absorption of the message. So, understanding, analyzing, absorbing, anticipating correctly, and being able to reformulate in a different language all at the same time, which I think goes a lot beyond what translation actually does. Translation takes its own sweet time. Interpretation, there is no time. There's absolutely no time. So, isn't it a lot more than just translation or what we call oral translation? And if I asked you to think about those questions I just asked you earlier, what do you think you would like to say? Summary or the entire message? Can you trust the summary to give you exactly the correct things or the salient points that I'm talking about that I want to convey? Or do you want to hear the entire message? So that is, to put it in a nutshell, of course, there are a great deal of differences. The skill sets required by translators, interpreters are very different. The way they work is different. Their working conditions are different. Their training is different. They are two completely different professions. You cannot mix the two. Yes, they both fall under what we call the umbrella of translation studies, but they are different. I hope that answers your question. I don't want to go into this in too much in depth because this can be the subject of an entire webinar, which I don't think is the
Yes,
point out here. So
true,
I
ma'am.
think, if I have answered your question, then maybe we can move forward.
True, ma'am. True, ma'am. Very true. I totally get it. Um, Clear the first questions answer now, and now coming to the crux of this whole session, AI, which has been disrupting a lot of industries, including translation as well. Being
Mm.
somebody who is working in a multinational company now, I'm seeing it now. Companies employing large softwares which are helping you to do the translation themselves easily with the help of these AI softwares. The second question, ma'am, is with the rise of these AI tools like Whisper, ChatGPT, automatic subtitling, and also the one which is very renowned these days, Samsung Interpreter, which is coming in the new Samsung mobile phones. What do you feel is the future of human interpreters? And is AI a threat or an opportunity or both of them?
Again, very, very interesting questions. Let me start by telling you AI is not a threat. And I'm not going to be concentrating on the translation part because this is about interpretation and AI and how I say, and you can hear the conviction in my voice when I say it is not a threat. Will not harm interpretation, and human interpreters will retain their jobs, no matter what you are hearing. You see, interpretation can be found at different levels. So, if you're talking a very basic level, like where do I go? How do I get to this point? What are the ingredients in this particular dish? Where do I buy this? Where do I buy that? Yeah, perhaps it will work, but that's not where interpreters work. Interpreters basically work at trade, like trade negotiations, trade fairs, different types of all types of negotiations, meetings, diplomatic meetings, okay, political meetings. They work at all this where it cannot work. And let me first tell you why it can't work. But before I do that, let me explain to you how they think. The ones who are developing it think that it can. It doesn't. And I will also tell you why I'm saying it definitely can't. Basically, what AI does is it converts speech to text. Then it runs that text through MT, that is machine translation, and then again reproduces text to speech. Remember this. Problem is, very often AI cannot identify the source language. Source language is the language which is used by the speaker. If it can't identify the source language for various reasons, one of that could be accents. There are very lots and lots of accents in the world. Let's just talk of India. How many different accents do we have here? They are very often, I have heard people telling me, I didn't understand. What did that person say? That person is an Indian, and the person who's listening is also an Indian. Very difficult to understand. Why? Because the accents are very, very marked. They're very strong accents. That is one problem. The other problem is that there are sometimes mixing of languages. Okay, how do we speak? I mean, just think for yourselves again in the Indian context. How do we speak English today? Do we really speak English? How many of us speak proper English? Don't we rather speak what is known as English or Indish? Why? अरे, of course. हाँ, तो मालूम ही है. Isn't that the way we speak? How is AI going to pick up on all these nuances? These different types of language that creeps into the language which is spoken. Naturally, diplomats and politicians will not talk this sort of language. But in trade negotiations, it happens. So what do you do? So that's the one problem. Second problem AI has is in what we call code switching. Code switching basically means switching from one language to another, which is what interpreters do all the time and very naturally. But there has been an experiment which was conducted by the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, which, as you, I hope, have heard, is a United Nations body, and it works with the 6 official languages of the UN, namely English, French, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, and Chinese. So WHO decided, let's do an experiment to see if we can reduce costs, because this is what is in the mind of people when they say, let's use AI for interpreting. So WHO said, let's try this experiment. Let's see if it works. So they did this experiment, okay, and they found it doesn't work. I will give you a few ideas on how it doesn't work. It came out with a report which was published earlier this month saying that it doesn't work. In some languages, it doesn't work at all. In some languages, it does. Not much, less than 50%. Whereas human interpretation will give you about more than 80% of the message. AI in interpreting, used as an interpreter, was giving you less than 50, which was not what they wanted. Because I hope by now you figured out that even when I'm speaking, you want to hear the entire message, not less than 50% of what I'm saying. One of the problems they found is AI cannot correctly identify the source language. Again, I am assuming it was because of heavy accents. It could have been, maybe not. It was maybe because of speed, because when a person speaks very fast, AI they found could not keep pace. Even though it was going at 100, like maybe 100 RPM or whatever, but there was a problem at the end because AI could not finish the entire conversation or the speech. The end was lacking, which is not what happens with human interpreters. They make sure that everything is said. Right? There is a transcription which is given, closed captions. That too, they found that the transcription of AI or by AI was incorrect. Sometimes the translations themselves were wrong. There were too many inaccuracies with AI and it led to a lot of miscommunication. Now, one of the problems with AI, which is not given in the report, of course, is something called hallucinations. AI hallucinates. It is so eager to give you all the information that you want that it makes up its own stories. So you need to check whether whatever you're looking at is correct, whatever you're listening to is correct. It could make up words as well. It has. It came out with words in some languages that don't exist. What do you do in cases like that? There is a total miscommunication, there's misunderstanding on the part of the listeners. Not fair, right? Another major problem with AI is confidentiality. What is confidentiality? We interpreters, human interpreters, that is, are bound by something called the confidentiality clause. Basically, this means that whatever we hear during an assignment or a meeting or negotiations, we are not allowed to give out to anybody else. It could be sensitive. Now, someone once asked me, how do you know what is sensitive? I said, I don't, which is precisely why I need to make sure that I don't give it out because it could be sensitive. And that is not fair. Now, in the case of AI, you have to be extremely careful because it doesn't understand confidentiality. There are some apps, okay, like DeepL, which is very, very risky, okay, as well as ChatGPT, which has major problems with with confidentiality. This puts the minute you run something through these two apps, it will put it out on the public domain, and that's not what you want. This is a complete breach of contract on the part of the interpreter. I have seen this happen, unfortunately, with young interpreters who have no experience and who don't know anything much about how to use AI properly in this particular case, or even the fact that, they may not have much experience with interpretation itself. What they do is they run a text, a speech through DeepL, and they just read it. So the problem with that is that the speaker could have started reading it and then disappeared somewhere else and started talking, but no, the interpreter is reading point blank. I mean, without thinking, without listening. So this is wrong. Second thing is, the minute it goes on to DeepL, it is out in the public domain, which which the speaker might not want the interpreter to do. This is a breach of contract. So these are very, very risky things, and you have to be very, very careful. You can use these apps only if you understand how to change the settings to ensure confidentiality. And DeepL and ChatGPT don't have these settings. So you have to be extremely careful with the apps that you're using, and you have to be extremely careful to make sure that the confidentiality setting is on. If you don't, then you have going to run into a lot of problems. Other major risk by using AI as an interpreter is something we call reputational risks. Now, this basically means risk to reputation. Reputation of whom? It could be the speaker, it could be the organizer, it could be the interpreter himself or herself. Why? Let me give you an example. In this particular report, it is clearly mentioned that somebody said at the end of their speech, Joy Bangla. It's like saying Jai Hind. What came out? Mr. Joy Bangla. And this was referring to the chair of the meeting, who happened to be a lady. It could be considered as an insult to the speaker. It was definitely more like a derogatory remark. There were other such instances which are examples that were given. One was Afro regional head, which was translated by the AI or interpreted by AI as our African. Again, it was a lady. These things are not done by interpreters. They are done by the AI who doesn't have a brain. Now, the interpreter has to use the human brain to figure out how to handle these things. Another basic problem that they came out with was that AI could not handle cultural references. Joy Bangla, Jai Hind, for example. The other thing is that we Indians say, chi. right? Sir G, President G. How is AI going to handle it? It's going to say G. The letter G will come on the transcript. Makes no sense. Remember, the message has to go across completely, entirely, and coherently. How is it going across in this case? Not possible, right? Figures of speech were not being handled properly either, nor were figures themselves. And again, look at the Indian context. We use lakhs and crores. Human interpreters and Indian human interpreters, let me put it this way, we know that we need to convert into millions and billions. We do it. But do you think they can? AI can't. Proper names. Mr. So and so, president of blah, blah, blah. Human interpreters know that if you can't get the name, there is a way of getting around it. We have been trained. We have to undergo training. Interpretation cannot be done without training. What about AI? Can't get the name, can't get the name, can't get the designation, too bad. Can't get the name of the company, too bad. Gets removed. Isn't this also reputational risk? Because it involves a risk to the reputation of the organizer and the interpreter, also to the speaker, who is perhaps CEO or president of some company. And you're not even mentioning it. Other problem with AI is accents. Language. Now, on the linguistic front, there's several things. One is heavy accents. I can give you a simple example of Indian accents here. I mean, there was somebody who came to my house when it was being done up. The entire flooring was being done. There was wood all over the place. Flooring had been done. There was wood lying all over the place because the woodwork was happening. And this gentleman says, "Oh, I like your hole." And I was petrified. I said, "Where's the hole? I don't see a hole. If there is a hole, I have to redo the flooring." "No, this hole." I said, "What hole?" "This hole." There's no, where? What he meant is hall. I couldn't understand it. How do I expect a foreigner to understand it? Right? This happens not only in our private lives, it also happens during negotiations. There was one instance where I was accompanying some French people to Gujarat. And there, after the trade negotiations were over, they said, "Come on, let's just go and have some snakes." They said, "We don't want snakes." And I had to tell them that they're not talking of snakes because these people understood English. I said, "No, they're not talking of the reptile. They actually mean something else." So, it can actually change the meaning and lead to a lot of problems. This is something that AI cannot pick up, and I doubt will ever be able to pick up. Mixing of languages, I've already referred to earlier. Proper nouns. Let me give you a few more examples taken from the WHO report. They use the word Dar es Salaam. You all know Dar es Salaam is a city. How was it interpreted? From Chinese into Arabic, it was interpreted as the brunette Russell. What does that have to do with Dar es Salaam? God knows. Haiti became Haiti or Haiti in all the 6 official languages it was being tested in. You see, it makes up whatever it can to be as close as possible, but since it doesn't have a brain, and hopefully never will get one, because the minute it gets one, that's the end of humanity. These are problems that are going to occur. Also, remember, AI tends to make up its own words, which it has done, and it is recorded in this report. There was one instance where it just made up a word in Arabic which doesn't exist. What do you do? What do you do? The other problem with AI is that it does not understand complex grammar and syntax. It wants something very simple. Now, if you look at French, sometimes the syntax can get very, very complex, right? It could happen in Indian regional languages also. Just think for yourselves. What are your languages? Could it happen in those languages? If yes, problem. because then you will not get to understand what this AI interpreter is trying to tell you. All right. Other problem, which was a bit of a surprise, which was that it can't also handle technical terms. Everyone will say, how is that possible? I'll give you examples taken from the WHO report. Transmission of polio was interpreted by AI as transportation of polio. There's a big difference between transportation of polio and transmission of polio. I can see some of you are laughing, but you don't want to be laughed at when you are interpreting. Human interpreters will never make mistakes like this. AI couldn't care less. It has nothing to lose. There's no reputation involved. It is not. Nobody takes it. No one asks it for and for reasons afterwards, right? No one says, "Why did you do this wrong? Why didn't you do this correctly?" Whereas we are taken to task. There is no accountability for AI. There's no transparency either. But in human interpreters have to be accountable. We have to be transparent. Let me give you another um, instance, again taken from the WHO report with regard to technical terms. Stratified health was used, WHO after all. It was interpreted as airline health. Now, how does stratified health turn out as airline health? I don't understand. And the general comment was that the expressions in the medical field were very poor and literal. If it is literal, it is not understood clearly. What is the objective? I'll come back to this time and time again. The objective is to give a clear and coherent 100% message by the speaker, to give it in the target language which is understood by the listener. If the expressions are going to be literal, they will not be understood. Your objective is not achieved. Another problem with AI was its delivery. Many aspects on delivery. One was speed. Sometimes it can't keep up with the speed of the speaker, because there are some speakers who speak very fast. And if I had to speak very fast, this is the way it would go, and these are the way speakers do speak. And believe me, that we have had speakers who just go racing through all the documents. How much did you understand? Okay, it can't keep up with speed. You may have understood 10%. I don't think that that AI would have understood much. And at the end of it, the AI just sort of gives up, and the end is not even interpreted or translated, which results in a loss of message. The intonation of the AI is very interesting because it's very monotonous. So how does it go? This is how it will go. There is no intonation, and there is no intonation. When we speak, when you come to the end of a sentence, there is a downward inflection in the tone. You can hear it in my voice as I'm speaking. You know that the sentence is complete. But with AI, this doesn't happen. There is no intonation, there is no expression. This is one monotonous tone going on and on. Believe me, it's very difficult to listen to for more than 2 minutes. We tried it. I was recently a participant in an AI in Interpreting Summit, which was organized by interpreters for interpreters. The organizers did an experiment on 3 of these apps and showed it to us and told us discuss it. And we came out unanimous. Cannot listen to it. It's too dull. It's too monotonous. It's very heavy on the ear. Don't understand what they're saying. Don't want to listen. Whereas human interpreters will never do this. Okay, we speak with in a particular manner. We speak with intonation. We speak in a with expression. We speak with pauses between sentences, which does not happen with AI. All right. We let you know if there's a question, or whether it is, the end of a sentence, so that the listeners can figure out exactly what's happening. But with AI, there was no emotion. There were no expression. There were no pauses between sentences. There was no inflection towards the end of the sentence to say that, okay, this is the end of the sentence. So listener doesn't really figure out when one sentence ends and another one starts.
Okay,
The
ma'am.
other problem with AI in delivery was the time lag.
Mm-hmm.
In interpretation, as particularly in simultaneous, there should be absolutely no time lag, at the most 1 or 2 seconds maximum. What did the WHO report find? It found that the time lag between the beginning of the AI starting its interpretation was 32 seconds after the speaker, which was way too long, way too long. Because what happens is you're waiting, 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 waiting as a listener. Nothing happens. You don't get anything. You think that there's a problem, you tend to switch it off. Again, your objective is not fulfilled. So you see, these are various reasons why I insist that AI will never take over the job of an interpreter. It can't. At the lower levels, very, very basic, it is possible. But where that's not where we work, like I told you earlier. And in
Yes.
the areas where interpreters are required, it cannot do it because of cultural references, because of intonation, because of delivery, because of language problems. It simply can't do it. I
Okay.
hope I have given you a general brief to AI. Yes, AI can be used by human interpreters to understand the topic and to prepare the terminology. But again, I would say, even for both these 2 points, please verify whatever you have got from AI, because like I have told you, AI tends to hallucinate. And there, even if you look up something on on the internet, please be careful. Somewhere it will say with a star Gemini, don't look at it. If it says AI, don't look at it, because you never know. You will have to verify, because these are things that could have been made up by AI itself. So be careful when you're using AI.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope I've answered the question on threat to interpretation. Not at all.
Definitely, ma'am. Very much illuminating your points. And I would say you have not just answered this question, ma'am, you have answered a lot of questions which we had because AI already is creating a lot of chaos. But thanks to you, we know now what are its limitations and what are its permanent limitations, which it can never ever overcome. But since we are done with this question, the main crux of this session, I'll proceed to the next question, ma'am. And this is regarding skills. So, be it any languages expert, be it a French language expert or any foreign languages expert, what skills do you feel or find essential to become a professional interpreter? We know listening, note-taking abilities, memory, accuracy, speed, they are very important. But what apart from these basic skills you think are important for one to become a professional interpreter, ma'am?
I would actually like to go back on what you said. Note taking skills and all these are not skills. The skills that are required by interpreters: number one, linguistic mastery, which means basically you have to master the languages which you work with, which we call working languages. Okay. When I say master, I don't mean a general knowledge or a basic knowledge. I mean, I meet a lot of people. Okay. They say, I know this language, give it to me, I'll do it. I say, yeah, sure, you'll do it. Because when you come up with figures of speech, you come up with idioms and proverbs, and you come up with references, have you really mastered the language? If in French we say May 1968, I'm going to say it in English because I know there are people here who don't know French. Those of us who have studied French are supposed to know what happened in May 68 and what is the relevance. If I say, being an Indian, if I say 1857, it's possible that foreigners don't understand, but we are supposed to understand it. And we're supposed to know exactly what is being referred to. So these are cultural references which exist in all languages. Okay, if I say a date, okay, for any place, if I say 1914, should have some impact. You should be able to understand the historical context. All right. If I give you a name, I say Wilson or I say Woodrow Wilson, should understand. If I say Lal Bahadur Shastri, You should understand the context without my having to explain it. So all this comes into what is known as mastery of a language. When you master a language, this is what you master. It's not just, yeah, I know the language. That doesn't work. Because in interpretation, you do not have the time to think. You have to say it immediately, which is what I had mentioned earlier, this thing of code switching, which means switch between languages immediately. Yes, we are all multilingual. Us Indians. Yeah, we can do it. Sure, you can. But can you do it in any field? Can you do it in the field of, say, space technology, science, medicine, legal, in the field of politics, trade, commerce, yoga? Can you do it with as much ease with any of them? But that is what you are expected to do when I say master a language. So the first thing is master a language. The second is have your general knowledge completely up to date with whatever's happening. If I say, you know what's going on in Ukraine, you should know. Okay, if I'm talking about climate change and I say, oh yeah, Paris had a red alert the other day. You know what red alert means, and you should know why Paris is having. Okay, what are the problems? Everything, the entire thing should come to mind. So, your general knowledge, you really have to be very, very careful of what is happening all over the world and not only in the field of climate change. I'm saying science, technology, engineering. Okay, I'm talking about trade. When you talk of tariffs, do you know what's going on? Do you know how it's going to affect you? Do you know how it's affecting other countries? Do you know what their responses are? How will it affect you? How will it affect climate change? Because they're all interacted, they're all connected. So you can't ignore one and look only at one, not at the other. Okay, I'll give you an example. I was interpreting at a conference which had to do with hygiene. Simple, no problem. Had to do with washing hands. Yes, there was a whole session devoted to washing hands. But I got thrown into a session which dealt with the construction of toilets somewhere in some rural area. This was engineering. They were talking about the actual construction, the materials that were going to be used, the soil that was needed, the fact that there was no water, there was lack of water, so how to bring enough water to that area, how to make sure that everything worked, other ways of finding out how to wash hands if there's no water around. It was all that. Fortunately, since I am a trained interpreter, we know how to prepare for such occasions. And I was prepared. I was definitely prepared. We all are, because if you are not, you're out the door. You're not going to get another assignment. So that is the second. Third one is you have to be a good speaker. Fourth, grooming is very essential because you're going to be up in front of people. Not always. When you're doing simultaneous interpretation, very often you're in the booth and you are invisible. But sometimes you're not. So you better be okay. You better be well dressed. You can't land up coming in shabby clothes. Okay, you need to be courteous. You need to know how to be respectful. You need to be open. You need to be very curious. You need to have like a real desire to learn and learn and learn, because with every assignment we learn, and we learn more and more and more, and we'll end up being able to talk to people on different topics at the end of it. I'm not saying we give out information. I'm saying we learn so much that it sort of feeds our curiosity, and we then talk to people to learn more. We do not give out any information at any point because this is a breach of contract. Code of ethics, of course, very important. We have a code of ethics, which I don't want to go into right at the moment. Interpreters also need to make sure that they are fit. I'm talking of mental and physical fitness. Because if you fall ill, you can't take an assignment. If you have a bad throat, you can't take an assignment. Can't talk. If you're sneezing away, can't talk. Your voice has to be good. You have to be aware of the fact that there are problems related to interpretation as well. So you have to be a little careful of that. Mental health, yes, you have to be very, very careful because it is very stressful, especially if you're working alone. These are things that you do need to be careful of. And these are some of the skills that you would need as an interpreter, which are very different from the translator. Which again, I don't want to go into right now because right now we're talking about interpreters and interpretation. I hope I've answered your question, Ashok.
Uh, Definitely, ma'am. Again, you have answered just not this question, but again, a lot of questions around these skills which we require to become professional interpreters. Now, coming to the stage which comes after you have acquired the skills, the career pathways, ma'am. So, what are the available career pathways for interpreters in India, especially and abroad, especially for French learners? And are there any specific institutions or certifications or organizations that they can aim for?
Let me concentrate on India right now. Unfortunately, there is very few places. There are very few places where you can actually go for training. And I hope you've understood that unless you're properly trained, you cannot do any interpretation. I know there'll be people who'll say, "Yeah, we did it, we did it." Yeah, good for you. Good for you if you think you did it, but just find out how much you actually do. Record yourself at some point, but not during an assignment because that's not allowed. But try doing it with YouTube. Pick up a speech and record yourself, interpret, record yourself, and then listen to it and listen to that YouTube recording. And then you will see how much you actually give out. Do you really give out 100% of the message? What were the problems? Note them down. These problems are the problems that you learn how to tackle when you're trained. So, first thing to do for anyone who wants to get into interpretations to get trained. I know there is a dearth of training in this country. Well, just reach out to me if you want to get trained. We'll see what we can do. We are also in the process of trying to do something about it. The market for interpretation is going to grow. You may think AI, no, it is going to grow and it's going to grow in regional languages. Abroad, what do they want? They want people who speak in their mother tongues. So, if you are going to learn French, you will have to use it as a passive language. You will not be allowed to use it as an active language because they would prefer to have somebody whose mother tongue is French. But you have a huge advantage because you all have mother tongues which in different languages. Get trained, and before that make sure that you have mastered your mother tongue, that you have mastered English, because without English you can do it. I'm not saying you can't. It's just going to be a little more difficult. Master whatever your working languages are. That means the languages with which you plan to interpret. Whatever it is, whether English is there or not doesn't matter. Whether French is there or not, it doesn't matter. But master them. Start reading the papers. Because I can give you an assurance that's going up over the past 5 years, rather 4.5 to be more precise. I have seen a tremendous increase in demand for interpreters with regional Indian languages. This is just the beginning. It is a huge market which will grow especially in the next 10, 15 years, is going to grow exponentially. We need trained people, but get trained. Without that, you're going to make a mess of it. Training is the most important, and I would like to reiterate this, Ashok, before I end this
Yeah.
answer.
Hmm.
Mastery over languages, not basic knowledge. Mastery over general knowledge, not just basic knowledge. And all the other points that I had spoken of. Confidence levels, but don't be overconfident. I still get butterflies in my stomach when before an assignment. Even when I have to speak, I mean, even now I was worried. And my prof, I had a prof when I was training who asked us once, a whole bunch of us, "How are you?" Before she led us into the booth. because she was going to work alongside us. And we said, we're scared. And she said, good. We said, huh? She said, that's the right attitude, because if you're not worried, you're not scared, and you're not nervous, it means you're overconfident. And when you're overconfident, you will make mistakes. So anyone who comes up to me and says, I can do it, I say, oh, Ash, get it? Be careful. Don't be overconfident. Don't be too confident either.
Yeah,
But yes, little bit of nervousness is good, but training is a must.
got it, ma'am. Thank you for this answer. With our next question, ma'am, I'll also announce something. We will have a next session again with Dr. Priti Bhatia, ma'am, which will be sort of a workshop where we will focus on interpretation from French to Indian languages and English. And this will happen in the month of August. We'll share the details very soon on our social media handles. With this announcement, ma'am, I have a question. As per your experience, how different it is to interpret into one's mother tongue, for example, for me, Hindi, versus a second or a third language? How complex
Now,
is it?
let me ask you another question in response to that. If I ask you to speak in your mother tongue, which is Hindi, on any topic, is it easy?
Comparatively, yes.
Comparatively, that's what I wanted to hear. As compared to a language that you have picked up, it is much easier to express yourself in your mother tongue, which is why world over they say interpret into your mother tongue, because you don't have to waste time looking for words, they come to you naturally.
Okay, ma'am.
Right?
Sure. And with this, my last question, ma'am. So, we have many young learners with us watching this session. What would be at the end your final piece of advice to us who are dreaming of turning our passion for any language which we are mastering into a fulfilling interpreting career in this fast-changing world where AI is coming, where a lot of these technologies are coming? So, what would be that one short piece of advice for all of us?
Short piece of advice in 2 sentences: master your working languages and take the training, undergo the training of interpretation, the training that is required. Market is there, it's going to grow, you will be needed, but you have to be good. You don't want to be useless. You don't want to be what I call the riffraff, okay, who give just 10% of the message, very happy with it. You want to create a name for yourself. You want a certain reputation in whatever you do. Do the training, master the languages, start reading up, read the newspapers, look at what's happening in the world, and get interested. If you have this desire to learn about anything under the sun, sure,
Mhm.
anyone. But I won't, I would probably like to end there. Will not say anyone can do it. I will say you need the aptitudes to do it. So make sure you have those aptitudes and make sure that you have mastered your languages and you know what's going on in the world. And that you find some place to train, because without that, it's not going to be possible.
True, ma'am. Before I ask our participants to share their questions, you have shared with us a video, ma'am. Would you want me to play that?
No, no, I think that's fine. I
Okay,
think
sure,
we
sure,
don't need to do that.
sure. Okay, ma'am. So, dear participants, we are done with our session halfway. If anybody has any question, they can unmute themselves. Yeah, they can first of all raise their hand and then can unmute themselves and directly ask your question to Dr. Preeti, ma'am. I'll start with Anish Shintre, who has raised his hand. Over to you, Anish.
Hello, ma'am, and hello, sir. First of all, thank you for such an insightful session. It was really informative. And actually, I'm quite relieved when you said that AI is not a threat to interpretation and translation as of now. But I have a further question. So, let's say 50 or 100 years from now, so the scientists and engineers must surely be working to train the AI to adapt themselves to cultural nuances or code switching or adapting to the local dialects or accents. So, will you think that AI will catch up to that in the upcoming 50 to 100 years?
No, because our language also keeps evolving. How fast will they do it? They'll do what is
Okay.
happening today. In the meantime, by the time they succeed, our language already changed. If languages
Okay.
don't evolve, Anish, they die out. Look what happened to Latin. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Look, you know what happens to people who migrate from India with Hindi? Let's just take the example of Hindi. Okay. Suppose they migrated, say, 20 years ago when they were children. Okay. They don't come back. They don't live here. Now think of the Hindi that was spoken 20 years ago and think of the Hindi that's spoken today. Is there a difference? Aha. But the problem is that they are not aware of it. So they still speak that 20-year-old Hindi. We
Okay.
don't. Okay. That's number one. Number two, let me tell you that the minute these developers give AI a brain, that's the end of humanity. Because it's not just our jobs which are taken over, it's the whole world. Everyone's jobs will go. And AI will take over humanity. We will be slaves to it. I know people say, yeah, you're talking rubbish. I mean, they've been saying this ever since I started my PhD, okay, which was like in 2014, so more than 10 years ago. When I used to say there is a rise, there's going to be a rise in the demand for interpretation, and people used to laugh at me. Seeing it happen now. So, you're most welcome to laugh at me, but remember my words. If ever AI gets a brain, that's it. Finish. We will become slaves of AI. Do we really want to become like that? That is not the point. What happens 50 years, 100 years from now? Not my concern. My concern is the next perhaps 20, 25 years where it will not happen. I mean, yeah, AI will develop. Agreed. It will start doing a lot more things. Agreed. But can it really take over language? Not the way it is evolving in society, in different societies today. The way it's changed, the way it carries on changing, can't be done. The changes happen too fast. They incorporate the changes which are there today in 2025. By the time they do it's 26, we've already changed. How are they going to keep pace? So don't be afraid of AI. We need to learn to work with it. But again, I'm saying be careful because AI hallucinates. Now, if you want AI with a brain which starts hallucinating, God help us.
Thank you for your answer, ma'am. Anybody else have any question? If yes, you can raise your hand and can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Uh, Good evening. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I would like to just ask one thing, like being a teacher, being a French professor, we are paid. I cannot say high, but it's like a well-paid profession. So if we would like to change it to like interpret or like something. Do you think that it's going to be a better option for us, or like how are they paid? Um, like it's just like out of curiosity I'm getting this question in my mind,
No,
because this
it's
field really impresses me a lot. Like I find it challenging also, and like I would like to try, but I know that it's very difficult, but still the remuneration part also I'm like little concerned, uh,
a very good question, Simple. It is very important to know. Yes, we are remunerated
ma'am, I
according to
cannot
the.
hear you, I think.
Am I on mute again? No. Can you hear me now? And let's increase your volume, your end. Can you hear me now? Simple. Can you hear me or not?
Yeah, now it's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So now, yes, we are remunerated properly in some places, in some conferences. But
Okay,
unfortunately, we have a problem with remuneration in the country, in our
okay,
country, because there
okay,
are people who don't understand the effort that we need to put in and therefore don't want to pay. Okay,
okay,
the whatever they get out, the result that they get is obviously not worth it,
okay,
but they don't want to pay. So we don't work. We
okay,
work for, like, I'll give you an example for per day, simultaneous interpretation, not less than 30,000 a day, which is 8 hours.
okay, okay,
Okay. That is like today, it could be even more, could be 35. But we don't get that all the time. I'm talking of rupees. I'm not talking of. If you work in an international assignment, obviously, then there you'll get paid like $200 an hour or for 2 hours. But you have to be accepted there, which is not easy because you've not been trained, and they are very, very finicky. One, you need to be trained. Two, you need to work into your mother tongue. Okay. Three, you need experience. And they are very finicky, believe me, because abroad, they are fully aware of what interpreters do. Unfortunately, the Indian public is not aware of what we do. So you need to tell them that the effort involved is a lot. This is what we do. And when you try explaining this to them, they say, that's what you do? But we're not paying. Please find somebody else. Yeah, sure, 10% of the message good enough. So, okay, not for me. Thank you very much. If you're looking simple to replace teaching by interpretation, I would say don't do that. I would say supplement it.
Okay.
Once you are a trained interpreter, because there aren't enough assignments at the moment.
Yeah.
It will happen at some point, I'm sure, but not at the moment. Okay?
Yeah.
So don't try to do that. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hello, Ashok and ma'am. May I add something here?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Sure. I recently was selected for one of the interpretation posts by Teleperformance, and it was in the this emergency call sector. Now, I'm not sure. I was pretty hesitant to join because they said they'll provide me training, but considering it's rotational, I don't know, for Indians, they always offer random shifts, and every 2 weeks it will be changing. So as you said, ma'am, it's we maybe do not realize the interpretation market, but there is some sort of exploitation for Indians. The way they are saying that within 2 months of training you will be able to handle emergency interpretation calls. So I figured that it's just not right time to actually start working in this field.
No, that you see, again, I come back to the fact that they don't know what they're talking about. What exactly do they want? And in any case, emergency calls would be emergency in what field? It could be anything, then you've had it because you don't know. And 2 months is definitely not enough. Even if you are working like 12 hours a day only on interpretation, which you can't because it's going to give you a headache. It's going to give you a severe headache. You try interpreting for more than 30 minutes at a time, you get a severe headache because of the amount of concentration and focus that is needed. Very often we come out of these assignments with very, very, like blaring headaches. And we just want to sit quietly in one corner and not even look at anybody, not talk to anybody, not do anything. Just we tell everybody else at home or wherever, and our family members don't talk to us. We just want peace and quiet to get over that headache. They are telling you to do it for 8 hours at a stretch. Good luck. Try explaining to them. They probably won't listen because they don't know and they don't understand the effort that's involved. And frankly, they don't care.
They don't care, that's true.
They don't care.
The
So what we really need to do is go out there and tell them that, sorry, you may not care, but I care about my health, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, because if my mental health is not okay, it's going to take a toll on my physical health. And I cannot afford to fall in.
That's true.
But this is going to take a lot of time before we get anywhere and explain to the Indian public at large, because it's so large, that this is not what interpreters do.
Great.
I hope I've answered your question, Pratna.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratna. I see 3 participants. They have raised their hands. Anybody amongst you can unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ashok. So, very insightful sessions, and I am a learner of the French language. I teach French to kids, and I know that my understanding of the language and my mastery over it is not really great right now, and want to keep learning it. And whenever somebody has told me, why don't you try being an interpreter? Isn't that much better? Isn't that more well paid? So uh, instinctively, I know that one, it's not as easy as it is to say. So just want to know about your journey as an interpreter and how you've worked for the mastery that you talk about over the working language, especially French.
Ashok, do we have time for all these questions?
Definitely, we have 15 more minutes left. So
Okay,
please, ma'am, go
okay.
ahead. Yeah,
Let me try to
sure.
tell you this very briefly. I was very lucky, okay, where French was concerned. I was actually thrown into French medium schools in Belgium and in Switzerland. I didn't have a choice but to pick up the language. And this happened when I was in primary school, middle school. This is the age where children pick up languages a lot faster. Okay. Living in these countries in a French environment gave me no option but to speak the language. So I picked it up and I became bilingual. It's like living in India learning Hindi or living in Maharashtra learning Marathi, I mean, whatever. Okay, so you just pick it up, right? So I picked it up. At some point, I decided to come back to India to complete my high school here. I finished my schooling here. I did my colleging here in Delhi. I went to the School of Languages in Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, where they offered a course in interpretation, which is what I specialized in. And then after I finished my MA, I did my MPhil, again specializing more and more in conference interpretation. After that, I was lucky enough to get a French government scholarship, and I went off to Paris, where I was lucky enough to get admission to the École supérieure d'interprètes et de traducteurs, which is one of the world's foremost leading schools of interpretation in the world. I spent a year there. I didn't do the full course. I did 1 year. I learned a lot. And I decided I had to come back because of personal reasons. Came back here, got married, moved from New Delhi to Bombay, and found that there's not much work happening in Mumbai. All the work happens in New Delhi. And later on, many years later, it started in Hyderabad. But because I wasn't in New Delhi, I sort of lost out on a lot of work. But I kept getting assignments off and on because I have friends who have their own translation agencies, who are also translators and interpreters, and used to give me the occasional assignment. So I kept in touch with it, and of course did my PhD focusing in this field, where I studied the interpretation scenario that exists in India at the beginning of the 21st century, because I realized there was a big shift from what was happening in the 20th century and what was happening now. So I studied all the different aspects of interpretation. After that came the pandemic. Now, pandemic was very interesting because that led to the coming of the remote simultaneous interpretation, where I suddenly found myself thrown into the global arena. I had, of course, worked for UN agencies in India, but it was the first time I was working on the global arena, and today I'm pretty well known there. That is basically what I'm doing, and of course, as an outcome of my thesis, decided that I needed to give back to my profession, which is interpretation. And along with some of my friends and colleagues, we are now in the process of setting up the Interpreters Association of India, which is going to take some time, which at some point will also get into training. So that's basically my career path in a nutshell. I
Thank you
hope
for
that's answered
sharing.
your question there.
Yes, and I also wanted to ask about travel. How much of a role does travel play
It
in your
does.
role as an interpreter?
It does. It does. It does. So you have to be prepared to travel. I'm not talking of internationally. It could happen, but more likely it's going to happen domestically. So you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to stay in tiny little rooms in tiny little hotels, which could be good, it could be bad, it could be pathetic. I've stayed in two pathetic hotels and I've screamed and yelled because if you don't get the rest that you need in that hotel room, with that headache that comes on after a full days of interpreting, it becomes difficult to get ready for the next day. So yes, all this has happened, and it will happen until the organizers and those who recruit us understand the importance of good rest. These things will carry on happening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you again, ma'am. Even I had that question in my mind, but I could never ever dare ask you directly. Thank you, Uma. Through you, I got the answer. I would say over to you, Shivani Devji. You can ask your question now. You have raised your hand. Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening,
Um,
Shivani. You've been very, very patient.
my question is that for a student of interpretation who has done her master's in translation and interpretation from JNU, would you recommend doing the training from EASIT?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
definitely.
And also wanted to ask, how was your experience training at EASIT?
Well, I'm talking of more than like I did it in 86, so it's like about almost 40 years ago. So I'm sure things have changed. I'm sure. But I know I was lucky to train under some of the best interpreters in the world, including a lady called Danica Seleskovic, who is a leading personality in the field of interpretation, even though she is unfortunately no longer with us in this world. She passed away, I think, in the early 2000s. But she has written books, and she was the one who started the interpretation course at the AZIT. She's also written books on methodology of interpretation, and she was an amazing, amazing person. I mean, the type of knowledge she had, it was flabbergasting. Because, I met her, I can give you a small example. I met her once in the lift to go up to class, and I was petrified. She was not very tall. Okay, she was, in fact, I was slightly taller than her, which was making me uncomfortable because of course, I knew about her. And we were really in awe of her. When she looked at me, she started asking questions. Where are you from? You're from India. Yes, I am. So are you a Hindu? I said, no, I'm not. I'm a Sikh. And I left it at that. And her next question was, tell me, for men, for Sikhs, they put Singh. What do they put for women? I was stunned because this was a foreigner asking me a detailed question that very few people know about. So,
Yeah.
this is the type of general knowledge that we are expected to have as interpreters, and the type of curiosity that we have, which is when we meet somebody, ask without giving out any details about any assignments that you may have encountered. But yes, you want to know what. I want to increase my knowledge in this field or that field, doesn't matter. I'm curious. This was an amazing lady, and I was really, really lucky to work under her, to train under her, and I learned a lot. I did.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck with the EZIT. Also
Thank you,
try for
ma'am.
the EZIT. EZIT is also very good. EZIT is the Institut Supérieur d'Interprète et Traducteur.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So we just have 5 more minutes left. I'll be taking 2 more questions. I'll ask Rishita and then Ria Taneja to unmute themselves and ask their question. Over to you, Rishita, first.
Thank you, Ashok sir. Good evening, ma'am. My name is Ishita. So it's more like an opinion. I feel like translation and interpretation teaches you to be humble. Because like it's been 3 to 4 years, I've been learning French. And when I try translation and interpretation, I feel like okay, I should learn more on vocabulary or like expressions. So, as you have talked so much about your experiences, I feel like you know more about this. So, are there any more like exercises or something like you feel like okay, it would help you to improve your translation or like interpretation? And also, I want one advice. I've been selected to go for a baby program in Belgium, and I feel like the French we've been learning, it's more like the French from textbook and the French they speak in real is very different. So I'm a bit scared. So like, are there any advices for that also? Thank you.
Let me come back to what you said right at the beginning, humility. That is the number one skill of a good interpreter. Again, if I find an interpreter who says, I'm the best, I'll say, yeah, sure you are. Because the best ones will never say it. They always feel that there are others who are better. And there's so much more to learn from other people. So, yes, humility is a very, very big, very important factor if you want to become an interpreter. You must remember to be humble.
Yeah.
And I think more than remember to be humble, it should come from within. If you are a humble person, you're more likely to succeed. I'm sorry to put it very bluntly, but I think I should. Advice on going to Belgium: don't get scared. Yes, you have learned textbook French. Doesn't matter. You will go there and you will learn proper French. No problem.
Okay.
Okay. What was the other question you asked? Oh,
And
yeah,
we-
exercises, there are
yeah.
plenty, but I will not have the time to go into them right now.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, just practice, practice, practice. That's all.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Rishita. So, the last question from Ria Taneja. Over to you, Ria.
Thank you so much, Ashok. Good evening, Preeti ma'am. So, like, I have done masters from Punjab University. So, I'm working in a corporate sector now. So, I have also heard that due to the AI, translation and interpretation jobs are going. But now I got the motivation to study more. So, can you recommend me? Like, I wanted to continue with the French. What are the best options to explore in France about the translation and interpretation?
You can do more. You will have to first figure out whether you are interested more in translation or in interpretation. Like I said, the skill sets and the aptitudes needed are different. So first
Okay.
figure out which one you're more interested in, and then you can always do a course in France. You'll have to look for them online and apply and see if you get it. Very good. Go ahead and do them. Good
Okay.
luck.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And one more question, like, is it like the people always say, like, is the interpretation job like not payable well? Like, I've seen most of the people, they are not getting good pays, they are working so much hard.
Oh, again, it depends on the organizers. If they don't know how much effort is involved, if the interpreter that they are recruiting is not trained, is not good, they will not pay. Also, be careful of the their agencies and agencies. There are plenty of them. So be careful of
Okay.
the agency you work with. And of course, try to get advance before you start work. At least 50% advance and 50% on completion.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Ria, for your question. We are almost at the end of our session now. Before I end this session with a small set of phrases, I'll say we will be having again a session with Dr. Priti Bhatia, ma'am. A session very technical, more like a workshop focused on interpretation from French to Indian languages and English. It will happen in the month of August. We'll be sharing all the details to you on your email IDs through which we have got the registrations and also on our social media handles. So kindly be in touch. And regarding two more things, I would want to share them briefly here. Dr. Priti Bhatia ma'am is working on an association of interpreters in India. It is still in the progress. So chances are maybe we can be some of the first interpreters who will join the association whenever it finally comes. And also, she's the founder of Antarctica, which is her own brand where she also provides training. So we'll be having all the detailed talks about these things in our next session. I would now just want to say a big thank you to Dr. Priti Bhatia ma'am for your generosity, your wisdom, your inspiration. You have not just through my questions, you have answered a lot of questions, ma'am. A lot of questions. We have gained so much clarity about this lesser known, but literally a very powerful career path interpretation, which even I had the chance to do, and where even I realized that how much more I need to learn. I would now want to invite our member from our core community, from our core committee of Sangam of Français, Akansha, to present a small vote of thanks to you. Over to you, Akansha.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashok. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Sangam of Français, I extend a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Priti Bhatia ma'am for her time, wisdom, and the enriching session she delivered today. Ma'am, your insights into interpretation, its human depth, career relevance, and challenges in the AI era truly opened our minds and inspired many of us who are navigating the world of languages. Your journey and thoughts have left a lasting impression, especially on the young learners from India who joined us with hopes and questions. A warm thank you as well to all the participants for your energy and thoughtful engagement. We are excited to keep growing this collective together. We hope to see you in our upcoming session, which will be conducted entirely in French and will focus on interpreting between French, Indian languages, and English. So, merci infiniment, Dr. Priti. À bientôt à toutes et à tous.
Thank you so much for having me and look forward to the next session with all of you. Thank you.
A small request, if all of you can come on your cameras for just a couple of seconds, we'll just quickly take a screenshot and we'll be done. Okay. If it's possible for all of you, yeah. All of us can smile now that finally AI is not going to take our jobs. So, okay.
But remember, it's a lot of hard work as well. Okay, it's
Definitely,
not
ma'am.
that simple.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, it's done. At the very end, again, a big thank you to Dr. Priti Bhatia, ma'am, to Akansha, to the organizers, and also our colleague Sandra, who heads French Vision, which is an institute which imparts lessons for different exams related to French language, DELF and DALF, TCF and TEF. Merci beaucoup à Sandra pour votre soutien, en fait, je dirais grand soutien. Merci à vous. Thank you, everyone. We shall meet again very soon.
Merci. Okay.
Yes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye. Take care.
Merci
Thank you.
beaucoup, madame. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.